Perhaps inevitably, Mr. Rubio thought our response to his response was hilarious. And so, yes, he put out another ad, again featuring me, and again totally avoiding the point. The point of all this since the beginning, the point being that he wants to add $3.5 trillion to the federal deficit. And Florida's most recent state budget needed a rescue from federal stimulus funds, which, of course, Marco Rubio opposes. These are troubled times. Okay, so this your ad, my ad, your ad game has been really fun. I want to keep going with this, even if it's only because the music is so great and I can't let it out of my life. Great music, great game. But here's the point of all this. Here's how it started. Mr. Rubio, your economic proposals would add $3.5 trillion to the federal deficit. Care to comment? At our news meeting today, we sat down and tried to figure out a way to keep this going, to keep the music, which we love, to give Mr. Rubio one more shot, but to not give Mr. Rubio any other distractions, anything else he could respond to other than the central point, which is his phenomenally fiscally irresponsibly bad ideas about the deficit. So this is our effort, Mr. Rubio, to keep you focused, to see if you can get the point. Marco Rubio wants to add $3.5 trillion to the federal deficit. $3.5 trillion. If we're just focused on that, if there's nothing else in the ad, do you think he will respond? The World Cup in soccer just ended. We spent a lot of time talking about that on this show. I'm pretty sure we're the only cable news show that also talked about the World Cup of lacrosse this year. So with those world championships under our belt already, we now turn with confidence to the World Cup of fake musicianship, for which we need Kent Jones, who is apparently an in-demand expert on this subject.
Oh, come on, everybody is. So, yeah, I got to be a judge last night at the U.S. National Air Guitar Championships. It was pretty amazing. A little extra drama this year because last year at the World Championships, the two top American air guitarists lost to a Frenchman. Quel horreur.
Yeah, seriously.
So the next World Championships are in Finland next month. So last night, they were trying to select an American to snatch back the world.
With your help.
Apparently with my help.
Amazing.
Here you go.
All right.
It was a pressure-packed night for the Masters of Imaginary Rock. Not only for the shredding participants, but for me as a judge. I knew if I got this wrong, it could alter the history of U.S. air guitar forever. Clearly, I needed to get into the minds of the artists.
You know, you're opening the curtain on yourself, and you step out there.
My goal tonight is to make as many people vomit on themselves as possible.
What's better, air guitar or sex?
Air guitar.
Air guitar, sex.
Oh, yeah.
You got to develop these neck muscles, though, so you could get hurt pretty damn bad.
I think I've got some new tricks up my sleeve too. Well, I don't have sleeves on right now.
When you're 48 years old, this is the key to breaking air. A nice marinated Chateaubriand, some bananas, and a couple Red Bulls.
As the competition raged on, it was clear the Americans had stepped up their game. But only one could reign as champion, and this year that was, from Milwaukee, the devastating Romeo Dance Cheetah. Godspeed, Romeo Dance Cheetah. The prayers of a nation go with you to Finland. Clearly, American air guitar is in good hands.
Ken, if we can get you a ticket to Finland, would you?
I've already got an outfit. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
All right. Must start raising money. In 2004, a man named Scott Bloch was appointed to run the Office of Special Counsel. And that's an independent agency in the federal government that's designed to protect federal workers, especially whistleblowers. So if you work for the government and you want to call bullpucky on something going on in the government, Scott Bloch and the Office of Special Counsel were supposed to have your back. Turns out Scott Bloch didn't so much have your back as he did your thighs, or at least your hemline. Right after Mr. Bloch was appointed by President Bush, he instituted a new dress code for the agency, a dress code that instructed female employees, quote, before choosing a skirt to wear, sit down in it facing a mirror. He put that in writing. It was around the same time that Mr. Bloch scrubbed the Office of Special Counsel's website to remove all mentions of the words gay or lesbian. Even though his agency's mission is to protect federal employees in the workplace, Scott Bloch did not want to give anyone the false impression that on his watch, that would include protecting federal employees who were afflicted with the gay. After instituting the Neo-Pilgrim dress code and after the great hetero-only website scrub of 2004, the following year, Scott Bloch conducted an alleged purge of his critics at the agency. Eventually, but perhaps unsurprisingly, Scott Bloch came to find that he was being investigated by the Office of Personnel Management and the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He was accused of retaliating against his own employees, which is nice for the guy who's supposed to be protecting people from stuff like that throughout the government. He was also accused of dismissing whistleblower cases without actually checking to see if they had any merit. In the context of those investigations, sometime in December 2006, Scott Bloch made a fateful call, a call to the most trusted name in help, I'm being investigated, can you please make sure there's nothing damning on my office computer. Scott Bloch, President Bush's head of the Office of Special Counsel, while he was still in that job, called Geeks on Call to wipe clean his office computer.
Does your office network need a tweak? Call Geeks on Call at 1-800-905-GEEK. Geeks on Call professionals are industry certified, trained, and tested. And best of all, they come to you, usually the same day. No need to disconnect or move your computer. We'll fix it on the spot.
That's who he called. At Scott Bloch's request, Geeks on Call gave his computer and those of his two top political deputies something the company called a 7-level wipe. For all that deleting, Mr. Bloch paid the Geeks on Call $1,000 in taxpayer money. When Congress inquired about that, Mr. Bloch dug himself a deeper hole by failing to tell lawmakers what he'd really asked the Geeks on Call to do. He said, in essence, I had a virus? Which is not what Geeks on Call treated his computer for, nor is it something that requires a 7-level wipe that meets Defense Department data security standards. In May 2008, the FBI raided the Office of Special Counsel looking for whatever the Geeks on Call had left behind. A few months later, in October, President Bush finally, you think it's time now, finally fired Scott Bloch. In April of this year, 2010, Mr. Bloch pled guilty to criminal contempt of Congress. Despite a possible sentence of 6 months in jail, we learned this week that he's likely looking instead at probation. Hemline checking, erase the gay, whistleblower quashing, contempt of Congress, 7-level wipe probation. We will let you know if the judge in the case decides to surprise Mr. Bloch, but probation is what we are told to expect. After the Exxon Valdez oil spill way back in 1989, oil companies formed something called the Marine Spill Response Corporation. The idea was to reassure everyone that if another big spill happened anywhere, anytime, the oil companies would be on top of it. They would invest big oil company money into state-of-the-art oil spill response. How's that state-of-the-art oil spill response looking these days? 20 years after the Exxon Valdez supposed wake-up call and the oil companies forming the Marine Spill Response Corporation, the BP oil disaster in the Gulf has showed us just how awesome that big investment in making us feel better has paid off. This week, now, in the wake of the BP oil disaster, oil companies want us to fall for it again. Because the Marine Spill Response Corporation worked out so well, oil companies now say they're going to create another post-disaster, make us feel better oil company-funded, oil company-run outfit. It's called the Marine Well Containment Company, which I'm sure will be totally different from the disastrously pointless Marine Spill Response Corporation, even though